one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Due to the physical distancing protocols in place at this time, we continue to encourage public participation remotely. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of our published agenda. There are two ways to participate. You can join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link at the top of the agenda and use the raise your hand button to be called on at the appropriate time. Or you can join by phone. You can call 408-638-0968. The conference ID number is 896-7219-5223. The password is #312-585. And if you do join by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand to be called on at appropriate times. And if you are called on, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Then you can state your name and provide your comments. These options for public comment will remain available until I close public comment periods for specific items. We also have a general public comment for items that are not on our agenda tonight, and public comment is available on items when we get to each item. With that, I would like to ask for a roll call from Cookie, please.
Certainly. Chair Lorraine?
Here.
Vice Chair Narita?
Here.
Commissioner Rowinski?
Here.
Commissioner Reyes?
Here.
And we know that Commissioner Robbins is here. I think he's having some technical difficulties.
Indeed, very good. With that, I would like to move us to the consent calendar, hoping that Commissioner Robbins will be able to participate if he so desires. The item is Commission regular meeting minutes approval. And I see Commissioner Rowinski has her hand raised.
Yeah. Chair Lorraine, I would just, I propose to make a change to the meeting minutes. Specifically, it's on page 2 under new construction building electrification, item 1. And in there, the minutes read recommendations supported by Lorraine, Narita, Robbins, and Rowinski. I didn't recommend on my end, the codes that were discussed during the April meeting. I did suggest a future meeting, partly because the code language that we were looking at was draft, and we had not received a copy of the exemptions and the studies, which, by the way, I did receive today, and hopefully so did the rest of the commission. So I would just like to take my name off the recommendation, and that should be fine. Thank you.
That sounds fine. Cookie, do you anticipate any issues?
No, that's no problem. We'll amend it.
Very good. Are there any other comments related to the minutes? If there are none, I would entertain a motion and would just recommend that motion include Commissioner Rowinski's request to edit.
I move to motion.
I'll second. Cookie, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Rowinski?
Aye.
Vice Chair Narita?
Aye.
Chair Lorraine?
Yes.
Commissioner Reyes?
I'm going to abstain, please.
And Commissioner Robbins? Oh, we can't hear him.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he gave us a hand signal that he's okay. The motion passes for and with one abstention.
Very good. I wonder if Cookie or perhaps someone on staff might be able to chat with Cliff or Commissioner Robbins just to perhaps discuss options so that when we get to questions and comments for the next item, he feels he can participate appropriately.
Through the chair, I will try and get in touch with our IT people to see if they can give him a call.
Very good. Thank you, Cookie. Right, and now we can move on to the general public comment. So this is a period during which members of the public can give comments on items that are not part of our agenda tonight. Our main agenda item is the 2022 progress report on the 2020 Climate Action Plan. So if you have comments that are not related to that item, you may give them now. Please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. Going once, going twice, and I will close the general public comment and move us on to new business and our main item tonight.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, you can.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Robbins. All is well. And thank you to staff for helping make that possible. Moving on to new business with the 2020 Climate Action Report Annual Progress Report. I believe we have a presentation from Sustainability Analyst Andrea Chow.
All right, good evening. Give me one moment to pull up my presentation and share screen. All right. Good evening, commissioners and members of the public. My name is Andrea Chow, and I am the Sustainability Analyst with the City of San Mateo. Tonight, my presentation will cover our Climate Action Plan and the progress we've made. So I want to start with a little bit of background on our Climate Action Plan. Our 2020 CAP includes strategies and measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and implementation measures are organized in the following categories: building electrification, renewable energy, energy efficiency, municipal energy efficiency and electrification, clean transportation fuels, sustainable transportation, solid waste, water and wastewater, and off-road equipment. To track CAP implementation, staff provides annual updates to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission and City Council on the status of each implementation measure and provides key metrics. My presentation this evening will highlight the progress we've made in each of these different categories. First, I want to show how much progress we've made towards our community-wide emissions goals against our 2005 baseline. So when developing our 2020 Climate Action Plan, a 2017 greenhouse gas emissions inventory was completed. And this was because this was the most recent year of data analysis we could use since the CAP development process started in 2018. But it showed that we had made tremendous progress towards our 2020 goal. By 2017, we had actually already met and exceeded the 2020 goal to reduce emissions 15% below our 2005 baseline. And so at that point in 2017, we were already 18% below the 2005 baseline. The 2020 Climate Action Plan establishes deeper emission targets, and those are 4.3 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per capita and by 2030, and 1.2 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2050. It is not possible to do a GHG emissions inventory every year due to the availability of data and the time intensiveness involved for an annual inventory. But as a result, this report focuses on metrics that are available to demonstrate progress. I'm going to share a little bit now on each category, starting with building electrification. So building electrification refers to buildings that use electric equipment for space and water heating, clothes drying, and for cooking in all uses. an all-electric building does not use natural gas or fossil gas. Building electrification is an important strategy to reduce emissions because natural gas is a fossil fuel, and its primary component is methane, and methane has a very high global warming potential. In 2019, the city adopted its first building electrification REACH code that offered 2 pathways to encourage electrification, and this REACH code went into effect January 1 of 2020. In 2020, there were permit applications for 6 all-electric ADUs and the Waters Park project that includes 190 dwelling units. Later in 2020, the City Council adopted a REACH code requiring all-electric construction of residential buildings and of office buildings, and this went into effect January 1 of 2021. And in 2021, there were all-electric new construction permit applications for 1 single-family home, 4 duplexes, 23 ADUs, and 225 multifamily units as part of Kiku Crossing. Staff are currently reviewing building electrification REACH codes for new construction and existing buildings for the next code cycle. There are also rebates available for electric equipment, and in 2021, through the Bayren Home Plus program, rebates were issued for 30 heat pump water heaters and 1 induction cooktop. In terms of renewable energy, Peninsula Clean Energy is the city's electricity provider and began providing 100% greenhouse gas-free electricity in 2021. At the close of 2021, San Mateo had a 97.2% participation rate, and for the calendar year 2021, we saw a 0.1% average opt-out rate. For solar, we saw an increase in the amount of solar installed in 2021. There were 416 permits issued, with over 3,000 kW installed at residential buildings. Looking at previous years, this is quite an increase because previous years saw roughly 1,000 kW installed per year. In 2021, there were 92 battery storage permits issued. This is just a slight rise over the 87 permits that were issued in 2020. And when looking at solar permits at non-residential buildings, these really vary from year to year. But in 2021, we saw 3 permits issued and 205 kW installed. The Bay Area Regional Energy Network, or BayREN, provides rebates to encourage energy efficiency upgrades. The Home Energy Score program provides a score of home energy use on a scale of 1 to 10. It estimates the home's energy use, the associated costs, and provides energy solutions to cost-effectively improve home efficiency. In 2021, there were 44 home energy score rebates to San Mateo residents. And San Mateo has more home energy score rebates issued than any other city in the county through this program. Through BayREN's Home Plus program, residents can receive rebates for different energy efficiency measures, including insulation, air sealing, duct sealing or replacement, heat pump equipment, and more. And in 2021, 21 homes participated in the BayREN program, and rebates were issued for 107 individual measures. BayREN also has a program for multifamily buildings. Property owners can receive $750 per unit when the efficiency upgrades they make are designed to save 15% or more of the building's energy usage. In 2021, 18 units participated in the program. And then finally, the Home Energy Advisor is a resource to any resident interested in making an energy upgrade. Advisors offer free, unbiased advice to walk you through BayREN rebates and provide referrals to other energy programs. In 2021, the Home Energy Advisors engaged with 72 individuals in San Mateo. In terms of municipal energy efficiency, the Sustainable Solutions Turnkey Project was a partnership with PG&E to make lighting and HVAC upgrades at city facilities. The project work was completed in Q1 of 2020, and we were excited to see that actual savings for the year 2021 exceeded energy saving targets for both electricity and gas. The city continues to make efficiency improvements at park restrooms and at rec centers. The city is part of a public-private partnership to construct a new residential building and parking garage on 2 city-owned parcels downtown. The 7-story affordable housing project, known as Kiko Crossing, will be all electric. This means the building will have electric space heating, water heating, cooking, and clothes drying. The parking garage will include a solar system to offset electricity use, and it will include the installation of 27 EV chargers to meet the city's REACH code requirements. The city prioritizes electric vehicle infrastructure to ensure that there's EV adoption throughout San Mateo. At the end of 2020, city staff had secured Cal EVIP funding with the assistance from Peninsula Clean Energy to install level 2 chargers at the Main Street garage. Last year, 13 level 2 chargers were installed with PowerFlex equipment, and these chargers became available this year and are currently available for public use. With these newly installed chargers, there are now 33 ports available to the public at city-owned sites. And in addition to these 33 ports, there are 113 charging ports available throughout our community. Notably, last year, there are new fast chargers installed at the Crystal Springs Shopping Center. A review of permit data shows that more EV chargers were installed throughout the community than in previous years, and California Energy Commission data shows an increase in the sales of zero emissions vehicles in San Mateo County. In terms of city fleet, the city currently has 57 alternative fuel vehicles, and the city will be developing a transition plan in fiscal year 22-23 to evaluate infrastructure requirements for electrical charging and in assessing the availability of green vehicles. The city has already switched from fossil-based diesel to a renewable product for the existing diesel-based fleet. I want to highlight 2 projects that were completed in 2021 that advanced our sustainable transportation goals. The city completed complete streets improvements on North San Mateo Drive between Baldwin Avenue and Peninsula. Bicycle mode share improvements include Class 2 and Class 3 bike facilities, and pedestrian mode share improvements include new lighting and curb extensions at pedestrian crossings. The city also completed implementation of its first bicycle boulevard on 28th Avenue between Mason Lane and El Camino Real. The city was awarded grant funding to develop a citywide transportation demand management ordinance. Staff are currently working on coordination with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to finalize the scope of work and procure a consultant. Transit-oriented development projects that are currently under construction include Kiko Crossing, 406 East 3rd Avenue, Station Park Green, 303 Baldwin Ave, and Bay Meadows Phase 2. This list includes development projects that are within the downtown area and within the Rail Corridor Transit-Oriented Development Plan, which provides guidance for development within a half mile of the Hillsdale and Haywood Park Caltrain stations. SB 1383, California's short-lived Climate Pollutants Reduction Act, establishes statewide methane gas emission reduction targets. In 2021, the City Council adopted the mandatory organic waste disposal ordinance, and in compliance with this state law. And the City Council also, in December 2021, entered into an MOU with the SBWMA for implementation assistance. This law focuses on providing organics collection services to all residents and businesses. So over the next 2 years, there will be a huge focus on education and outreach. Currently, there are 223 multifamily buildings out of 739 buildings with compost service. So Recology's Waste Zero specialists are actively contacting multifamily buildings and HOAs to offer support and technical assistance with compost services. The city's disposable food serviceware ordinance is modeled after the county ordinance and will require food facilities and restaurants to use compostable fiber-based disposables. This ordinance will be enforced beginning October 1, 2022. That's later this year. And then finally, the Team Up to Clean Up program continues to bring together residents and neighbors to eliminate litter on our streets and our storm drains and parks and waterways. And in 2021, the program had 982 participants contributing over 3,000 hours of volunteer service. There are a variety of rebates available to encourage water efficiency and conservation. Starting with rain barrels, the city partners with BOSCA to issue rain barrel rebates. We saw an increase in rain barrel rebate applications this past year. This might be because in November of last year, the city partnered with Flows to Bay to set up a distribution event at our city courtyard. San Mateo County residents were able to reserve and purchase a 50-gallon rain barrel at a discounted rate, and on top of that, also take advantage of the rebate. Besides rain barrel rebates, there are other types of rebates available through CalWater. CalWater distributes rebates for high efficiency equipment, including toilets and washer machines. And in 2021, they brought back the lawn to garden or turf replacement rebate that couples with the spray to drip rebate. So residents and businesses can transform lawn and grass areas into water-wise gardens. And CalWater will offer $3 for every square foot of living lawn that is transformed, and an additional 50 cents per square foot for converting traditional spray nozzles to drip irrigation. To draw attention to this program, in November 2021, the city partnered with CalWater to provide a virtual webinar focused on lawn to garden transformations. And this workshop reviewed how to convert your lawn to drought-tolerant landscape, plant an edible garden, and make other changes to transform your outdoor space and also use less water. In July 2021, staff launched the city's electric leaf blower rebate program that offers a rebate for the purchase of an electric leaf blower. The rebate is structured to offer landscaping businesses 75% of the purchase price, a maximum of $500, and residents receive up to 50% of the purchase price, a maximum of $100. To date, the city has issued 5 rebates to commercial businesses and 25 rebates to residents. In 2021, the Parks Department invested in roughly $9,000 of electric equipment. This equipment is used in all of our parks and also on Spare the Air days. Some preliminary findings from using this equipment. Some electric equipment is easier to use than others based on the battery life and also the weight of equipment. And staff is still working through some challenges specifically related to the charging of batteries to power the equipment. There are a variety of priority measures that are important to the city's climate action work that other departments cover, including our green fleet, which is led by Public Works, and landscaping water conservation practices, which is led by Parks. I wanted to highlight a few key items for my work plan this upcoming fiscal year, starting with REACH codes. So developing and adopting REACH codes for new construction and existing buildings is a priority for this fiscal year. Again, the current code cycle ends December 31, 2022. And so the city's current REACH codes for new construction will expire. Per the Commission's request at the last meeting, I will be returning to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission to discuss REACH codes in July. So at that time, I will have model code language from PCE and the Bay Area REACH codes group. And I was hoping to return to the Commission at the June 8th meeting, but unfortunately, the draft code language won't be made available to the end of May, which is a bit too tight of a turnaround to have the analysis and report developed for the June meeting. Another update related to that schedule, I'm tentatively scheduled to present at the City Council study session in August. I had previously mentioned July at the last meeting. The City Council set a goal to decarbonize existing buildings and eliminate the use of natural gas or fossil gas by 2030. So building electrification REACH codes and policies like this help advance that goal, but I will also work on outreach on electrification benefits and electric equipment rebates, and host outreach events, and figure out how we're going to reach this 2030 goal. And then finally, I will be evaluating leaf blower regulations, since that was also identified as a priority. I will analyze best practices and policies in other cities and plan to present my findings to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission this fall before going to City Council. And that concludes my presentation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we could take commissioner questions related to the presentation. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand at this time. Thank you very much. Commissioner Rowinski, I think I saw your hand first.
I think Commissioner Rita was before me.
Very well. Thank you. Please go ahead, Vice Chair Narita.
Great. Thanks. Thanks so much, Andrea. Great job on the presentation. Really appreciate it. So just a couple clarifying things. Could you explain what the renewable product is that the diesel fleet switched to? Or is this a better question for next month when we get the fleet update?
Yeah, I think that would be a better question for Public Works to talk a little bit more about the renewable product they switched to.
Okay, I'll just maybe in the comments section, I'll maybe flag some things for the fleet then overall. Thanks for that guidance. And then additionally, in your report, and I flagged this via email, I was curious also to know where there have been some challenges or some places where momentum has not necessarily continued or maybe stalled or went slower than normal. The thing that stuck out to me comparing the 2020 and the 2021 updates that we've received year over year was that the resilience project at the police station, that update seemed to be the same year over year. I was wondering if that was like just, if you had any further details there or.
Yeah, I actually do have more of an update I learned after writing this report. So Peninsula Clean Energy is working with a consultant on a portfolio of sites. So the city of San Mateo is one, and our police department is one of many sites. And so I learned they've been working with their consultant on furthering the project. They've actually added additional sites to the portfolio. So that was progress made on their end. But as far as from the city standpoint, we have been participating and no other information was needed yet.
Okay, so the consultant is working on it, but like we don't have any sense of like when some kind of progress will be felt by the community at that site potentially.
I know that they're working on putting together a solicitation for before the end of this year. So there will be some action this year.
Okay, got it. And then I also was curious and understanding that, this climate action plan was made in 2020 and how quickly literally the climate is changing before our eyes. But I was curious if in your work planning, all of those things that you articulated for 2022 were wonderful mitigation measures, right, to mitigate the city's climate impact. But I was curious if additionally you or other members of staff are working also on resilience issues as we come especially close to summertime and fire season time. I feel like in the next 5 months, 6 months, this will be particularly front and center for our community. And I was just curious about that part.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, our climate action plan is very focused on climate mitigation. This report reports on progress all along mitigation. But yeah, we are definitely thinking about adaptation and resilience. Previously staff have really participated in a lot of regional efforts that bring together jurisdictions to talk about issues such as wildfire, high heat days. These were mostly convened by the County of San Mateo Office of Sustainability to bring in speakers and experts to talk about challenges and possible solutions. We're also actively involved in regional groups related to sea level rise. I know there's a presentation upcoming on One Shoreline at our city council. And the city is also involved in another regional collaborative called the Bay Area Climate Adaptation Network. So a lot of our work we're doing is in partnership with other local agencies facing these same challenges.
That's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Rowinski, please go ahead.
Hi there, Andrea. Great presentation. Thank you. Just a few questions here. Under transportation demand management, you had mentioned the city was awarded some grant funding to develop a citywide transportation demand management system and ordinance. So we're in the process of creating an ordinance. Can you give me what would be typical examples of demand transportation management systems that could be included in such an ordinance?
So TDM measures are measures that development has to comply with to reduce, mitigate for traffic impacts. So,
and who does these? Do households do these? Do developments do these?
Developments have to comply.
Okay, right. And currently we have a TDM zone here in the city, and we actually don't know if we got an update on the TDM around Bay Meadows.
I would be happy just to a little bit more detail to answer your first part of your question, Susan or Commissioner Rowinski. TDM measures, as Andrew said, are typically done by developers or owners of buildings, and they include things like, for example, giving free transit passes to residents, providing car share spaces, bicycle parking, providing on-site bike share or other types of things. So, there's a long list of measures, shuttle services, all those qualify. That work is, being done by our Public Works Department, by our transportation planner, Sue Ellen Atkinson.
Right.
And we can, if there's more interest in finding out more about that, I'm sure she can bring back a more detailed presentation.
Yeah, and we do get a through Public Works, though I'm not sure if we got an update last year. There's a TDM review, and it focuses primarily on Bay Meadows, and so really TDM, a citywide TDM, would be big developments such as Concar or Green Station or Station Green, items like that. If I'm not mistaken, that's how an ordinance of that, a citywide ordinance would be implemented.
I believe that's correct. But again, our Public Works Department can provide more detail on that specific effort. Okay, and I can follow up with Sue Ellen on that, but that helps me out a little bit in terms of answering my question. Andrea, KQ Crossing is under construction and all electric. And I did see that they include electric space heating in the packet, includes electric space heating, but not heat pump heating mechanisms. Is there a reason? And I say that because heat pumps are under discussion now.
So I wanted to indicate that the project is all electric. I do not know the type of electric equipment the project will be using.
Okay.
So I can't answer whether or not it's heat pump technology.
Okay, or what's currently available, which is a type of radiant heat using electricity. That's another type of electric heat. Okay, and then therefore we don't know about the water heaters either, because that was under discussion last week as well.
I do not know the exact mechanical systems they're using, no.
Yeah, but whatever it is, it's heated electrically.
Correct.
It's an all electric. Okay.
I believe there may be solar water heaters in that.
Oh, they're using solar. Okay, yeah, solar converted into electric that is heating the water heaters. Okay, alrighty. And then my last question has to do with the disposable food service ware ordinance. And that goes into effect here in a few months. And I'm just curious how city staff is assisting some of our food facilities and restaurants, and what's the feedback we're getting from them?
Sure. So for the ordinance, we've sent out a few letters to notify businesses of what's coming. I've heard back from just one in response to the letters. So I'm hoping to hear more businesses reach out and ask for help. But the county is mostly leading the outreach and education to our food facilities up until October. So there's going to be another letter sent in June. And then they're holding an outreach event. I'm not sure if it's going to be in person or online, to talk with restaurants one-on-one about the different products, the different compostable products that are available. And they've also developed a few resources for businesses to use in order to make the transition. They have a compliant foodware list that shows the variety of different cups and bowls and plates and whatnot that are compliant with the ordinance. And they also have compiled a vendor list to connect businesses and restaurants with the vendors that sell these products.
Right. And do you know if a restaurant, or particularly a restaurant comes to my mind, if they currently have styrofoam products available that they might have bought before this ordinance goes into effect, or even before it was voted on by city council? Do you know if they can run that out? Let's say they bought 5 years worth of styrofoam. We'll just say that before this was approved, before it became an ordinance in the city of San Mateo. Do you know how that plays out? Can they burn that? Can they basically use that out before moving into compostable?
Right. So the whole goal of adopting an ordinance so far in advance of the enforcement date was to allow for the using of inventory that is not compliant. I do want to remind everyone that styrofoam has long not been allowed in the city of San Mateo, but I think maybe plastic.
I just use styrofoam. Let's just say plastic.
Yeah, plastic.
Plastic would be a better
plastic, non-compliant foodware. So since this ordinance was adopted in 2020, this delayed enforcement would hopefully allow our food facilities to use up that foodware before
they had.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely the intention to ease that transition.
Sure. And then one last question, also related to this issue of food and reducing its I'll just say its carbon footprint. In the notes, it mentions that City Council adopted a mandatory organic waste disposal ordinance. And do you have a sense of when, and they've directed staff to start to establish the requirements for this ordinance. Do you know if this ordinance will be coming before the SIC, and if so, about when?
So the ordinance was adopted in compliance with state law. So it's not something that the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission will weigh in on. It's an ordinance that adopts and confirms that the city is taking action in compliance with SB 1383.
Right. Okay. So it has nothing to do with day-to-day implementation with organic waste haulers and generators and.
So it does have to do with organics and waste and organics generators, like single-family homes and multifamily buildings and businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the ordinance itself was written in compliance with state law. So it was actually another ordinance developed by the county and distributed to cities to make sure that cities were complying with the state law.
Okay, so the county wrote the model language, and then so all the cities in the county have to follow this language. Okay, in order to be in compliance with the law. Okay,
and all the cities actually throughout the state should be adopting a similar ordinance.
Yeah, the similar ordinance, right? Okay, All right, so that is something that won't be coming to us. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Reyes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Great work, Andrea. I had a question with regards to the composting. So you mentioned that there are 223 multi-unit dwelling facilities that offer composting. Can you give us a sense of how much progress we've made? So is that new, or how many came on in the past year or 2 years, just to give us a frame of reference?
So I did look back at my 2021 report, and I think I had actually sent an email to Recology to really confirm the data, because what I had reported previously was 144 out of 819.
Mm-hmm.
And so this would mean a great jump, 144 to 223. But I think what I'm most very concerned about is this discrepancy of the total number of multifamily buildings with services. So I do want to check in to see kind of what the progress have been made.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I know that we've previously gotten a presentation on this effort directly from relevant staff.
Mm-hmm.
But as I recall, this is one of the largest emissions reductions opportunities that we have. Can you speak to to the degree you can, what is going on now, what efforts are being undertaken to continue to advance this to get further adoption?
Yeah, I spoke a little bit with the SBWMA to understand the city's involvement and the partnership between SBWMA and Recology, all towards compliance with SB 1383. So the goal is to have 100% of our multifamily dwellings offer compost services. So over from my understanding, over the next 2 years, it is all about outreach and engagement with multifamily buildings and HOAs to get the service running. I know there is a waiver process that businesses and I think multifamily buildings can also apply for in special cases. I think especially circumstances when there's not physical room to offer the composting services, I think that's still considered something you can apply for a waiver for. But that's really the extent of my understanding. And I think I can connect you with our new solid waste manager to ask further questions on the topic.
Okay, great. That's my only question. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Robbins, any questions? Okay. I think I was just curious, Andrea, about whether there was room in your work plan going into fiscal year 22-23 for, I believe in goal setting, there was something brought forward by Councilmember Lee related to pursuing a new sort of landscape ordinance that would allow for more residents and folks in San Mateo to consider getting rid of their lawns and pursuing more drought tolerant landscaping. I wonder if that was something that is also potentially to be explored this year or in the future.
I'm not sure if the landscape ordinance item is the same item that I had mentioned that Parks was leading, or maybe something that CDD might be working on. Because if it is an ordinance implemented through development, it would likely be with CDD.
Very good. Yeah, I do remember you mentioning something with Parks and Rec, and so perhaps it's going through them, and then I guess we wouldn't. I would hope, I guess I'll just make a mini comment that there might be an opportunity for us to learn more about it and receive an update. But with that, I think I would like to turn it over to public comment for members of the public to give their thoughts, please raise your hand at this time if you'd like to comment. I see a couple of hands, and this is the time to do so. So with that, I'll ask Cookie to please call on the first speaker, please.
The first one is Belinda.
Hi, thank you. I have a question. I was at an event that Recology was at and talking to them about the composting of, cups and plates and stuff. And they said that a lot of the cups, like the plastic that says compostable on it, it doesn't get composted because it takes 120 days to break down and their composting system is 90 days. So I was wondering if that is being resolved so that those compostables actually get composted, so Recology can actually compost them. And then the other comment I have is there's a home composting system called Lomi Home Composting. That's like a countertop composting system. I don't have one. I've thought about getting one, but I think they actually look pretty good. And perhaps there could be rebates, especially in apartments and multifamily dwellings. It might be a great way if people are worried about rats and things like that to avoid that kind of situation. But and then one last thing. I would love to see San Mateo join the Cool Cities campaign. And also, there are some areas in our where there's the Blue Zone project that works with food and getting more plant-based healthy food into the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next speaker, Carol Steinfeld.
Hi, Commissioners. Just as it relates to water, gray water dual plumbing is listed.
Carol, I think we lost you for a moment, so perhaps we can have you start over.
There are two places to unmute. I unmuted in one place, which meant she muted me, and then I had to unmute. Okay. Just as it relates to water, gray water dual plumbing is listed in the plan, and I think it was in the previous cap, pretty sure. Yet because this isn't required, we have new buildings going up that don't include this, as well as other all possible water conserving design and features. And as I've mentioned before, a notable example is the relatively new Cal Water building, which we funded as ratepayers per CPUC. The then director refused to consider including the features such as a demonstration rainwater collection system and a gray water system. Gray water dual plumbing could have been highlighted. And it would have been so easy, let alone ultra low flush toilets. And this was brought up at Planning Commission twice. And I think that we need to think about codifying this stuff. So your local chapter of the Sierra Club is looking at including water features in REACH codes. These do have to be shown to conserve energy, and some do. So I asked the commission and the staff to pay attention to that going forward. And our water committee of the Loma Prieta chapter will soon be telling you about the model water efficiency for new development ordinance that can help with institutionalizing this sort of design and practice and features. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Whitehair.
Good morning, or excuse me, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I had the opportunity to read the staff report and read the progress report on the climate action that the San Mateo has taken. There's a very long list of some wonderful things that have been done by the city and by the residents of the city, solar panels and lots of other things on Bayron. The question I have is there a way that you can show on a line graph or some sort of chart the progress that the city is making towards the 2030 goals? If I remember the numbers correctly, it's about 250,000 tons of CO2 equivalent that have to be mitigated by a certain time. I think it's 2030 or 2050. That time is not that far down the road, and it would be nice if, when we see these progress reports, to show how much probably not each, but in total, how much the solar panels change that pattern, how much it reduces the greenhouse gases, and that sort of thing. I don't know how I would like to see it, but I do know if the staff could put their heads together and try to figure out a way to track that. There are people out there like me and many others, as you know, who are very interested in tracking how we're doing on our goals. And if you could do a quid pro quo or a connection between what permits are issued and what the reductions those amount to, that would be really helpful to us. So thank you for that nice long list, and thank you for the staff report, and thank you for listening to me tonight.
Thank you.
Gary Trout.
Hi, my name is, dear SIC commissioners, my name is Dr. Gary Trott. I'm a San Mateo individual concerned about future climate changes and a member of the San Mateo Climate Action Team. Thank you for the opportunity to comment today on the Climate Action Progress Report. I'd like to thank the staff, Ms. Chow and Ms. Kleinbaum, for all the really hard work that went into collecting and organizing that report data. It is a lot of work, and if I may make an observation, there's the crux of the problem. In order really to support and achieve the mayor's proposal of being natural gas free by 2030, we need many clones of both of them to generate the effort necessary to measure and strongly reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from San Mateo City. The CAP matrix is full of many, many positive steps that will help mitigate the climate change directly or indirectly. Plus, San Mateo has implemented REACH codes for electrification of some but not all construction. Those are good first steps, but the balance of the existing infrastructure contributes about 42% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions. The CAP report presented showed that in 2021, Bayren collectively touched on the order of 100 existing homes and businesses that were involved in efficiency upgrades of one sort or another. Yet, in San Mateo City, there's roughly 440,000 residential units and business units. At 100 units per year, it'll take 400 years to touch and retrofit the whole San Mateo building supply. So that's a pretty tall order. That's a pretty big gap between that and the 7 years that the International Climate Panel on Climate Change said to sustainably reduce greenhouse gas emissions, or the proposal of the mayor. What metrics are being used to show that San Mateo City is on target to meeting something closer than 400 years, whether it's 2030 or something else? The San Mateo Climate Action Team recommended implementing a two-prong approach to phase in electrification and to provide education options, because there's a lot of problems with retrofitting. At least it's a starting plan and a direction to significantly reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, but where's the city's efforts to find grant funding to help make the change approximately revenue neutral for the disadvantaged parts of the population? I learned recently that PG&E is holding panel upgrades for a year. Where's the advocacy for the city to push PG&E to address the local grid supply problems? So if there are no stepwise metrics on how long it'll really take to reduce greenhouse gases, I wonder how long, it's really going to be. So I would like to ask the San Mateo City implement the boldest possible plans to address greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see no other hands raised.
Very good. Well, thank the public for giving their comments. I will close the public comment.
Through the chair, if I may, I wanted to offer one correction since I had misspoke. So, Commissioner Lorraine, you brought up the studying landscape water conservation policies priority. I had misspoken that I said this was a parks measure, but this is actually something that CDD will lead. So I wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. I guess I am a little curious. So CDD, does that mean, I guess I wonder if you have thoughts on how members of the public could learn more about that as it unfolds. We have a community relations commission, right?
We do have a community relations commission. I don't know the process. I don't know if Kathy has thoughts.
So this item was adopted on the City Council strategic plan for this upcoming year, and the work plan item related to it indicates that community development, or CDD, will be bringing forward to City Council at some point next fiscal year a study session to discuss possible landscaping water conservation policies. And then depending on how that's implemented, that may end up going through the Planning Commission if it ends up being a zoning change or a development requirement change. But I don't have any more information on the timing of that. The strategic plan is supposed to be for items that start after July into the next fiscal year.
Of course. Thank you. Though I appreciate that. I think that was informative. I guess I wondered too if I might ask staff if they might have a comment on at least one question that we heard through public comment. I think something related to foodware and other things that might take longer than 90 days to compost. I guess my presumption with that would be that as we look into implementing this compostable foodware ordinance in October, that the items on that list are likely ones that fit more within the standards that would be facilitated for composting in the facility we currently have. Does that sound accurate?
Yes. So I should have clarified that as well. The disposable food serviceware ordinance requires compostable fiber-based disposables, distinct from compostable plastic. And so this ordinance is very stringent, and that will ensure that the disposables are easily composted at facilities. So by fiber-based, I mean things that are like made of bamboo or paper-based. They look very different from the compostable plastic. That sometimes compostable plastic looks plastic often. If that makes sense.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask commissioners to give any final comments related to the item. I thought I saw a hand raised, but it went down. Go ahead, Commissioner Robbins. Oh, just kidding. Anyone else? Other commissioners with comments? Going once.
Now I do. I apologize. I'm having total tech cluster here. I'll just leave that alone. An old Navy term. Okay. Yeah, I'm crazy. Just a couple comments. Besides, thank you as usual, Andrea. Great presentation. And Kathy, thank you for chiming in on some good points. I was happy to see, I just want to kind of go on record, that the leaf blower program, rebate program is ongoing, and as the council has directed that be something we look at in this next year. It's an area that I think we kind of dropped the ball, quite frankly, at the commission level. So I look forward to revisiting that and seeing what we can do about that. And then one suggestion, throughout the document, there are a lot of references to various rebate programs. And to be honest, I run into neighbors all the time. Know I'm on the commission. I'm out dog walking is how they usually see me. Stare at me to make sure that I am picking up the dog droppings. Folks don't really know about most of these programs. And as somebody like all of us who's fairly plugged in, I find them difficult to find. I've got solar, I've got a rain barrel, but, and on and on. if there's a way to publicize these rebate programs more than we do now, it would be great. And up and down the socioeconomic ladder, because it's not just something for the single family dwellers or in the wealthier neighborhoods. There are a lot of things that could be very helpful. Another hat I have is with Samaritan House. If they, I'm on the board there, if they knew about this and could add it to their case management to their clients, there are some that could really benefit from knowing a little bit of savings here and there. Those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Nowinski, thank you.
Yeah, I would just echo what Commissioner Robbins said. There are, Andrea, this document did a fantastic job of consolidating roughly almost, I counted 10 rebate programs offered at different levels. And the question is, and I know this is always a challenge, getting this information out. But, and it's going to be a multi-pronged approach, but I can share with you one of the most effective ways to do this, and the city does send them, is bright colored postcards that would consolidate all of these, that goes to every business and resident in the city, multifamily, single family, whatever, all these rebate programs, and likewise post it on, I don't know, Kathy, if this is possible, the homepage of our website. Not under sustainability, but on the home page. So my take here is it's multi-pronged. It's very, very doable because I've seen staff do amazing outreach on work in the past. But just give that some thought. I think it's a diamond in the rough, for lack of a better term, and figuring out how to get the word out.
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback from both Commissioner Nowinski and Commissioner Robbins on the amount of rebates available in our community. This information, so if you are looking to tell your neighbors, this information is posted on our sustainability page. So that is one resource that does consolidate all the rebates that are available in our community. And then, but I am hearing we do try to periodically post this information in our citywide e-newsletter. So it gets into people's inboxes, on social media, on our Facebook or Nextdoor pages. But yes, I know there's always more to be done because I hate when people hear about the rebates too late.
Yeah, and it's got to be prominent too. If it's, that's why I had suggested the homepage. Postcards are fabulous ways to get a hold of people. Believe it or not, they work.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Narita, please go ahead.
Thanks. And I'm sorry, but through the chair, Andrew, I just have one additional question before I give my comments. When's the next update for the cap? I'm sorry.
We usually do them every 5 years.
Every 5 years. Okay. Got it. That informs my comments. That's why I needed to ask. Thank you so much for this presentation. A couple things I wanted to flag. Now that I've had a full cycle of being on the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission and received 2 of these updates on the cap, which I really have appreciated. So overall, the commission seems to respond to the needs of sustainability as the office of you, really, Andrea, and of the public works as an agency. But I think it gets confusing sometimes for the public and for myself, honestly, over this last year, when it doesn't necessarily also overlap by topic. And so I'm curious if staff can figure out some plan to also, or some way, like we just had this example with this landscaping thing that goes through a different agency and therefore will go to a different commission, but has sustainability ties into it. This has happened a couple different times and it's just a little confusing. And I could imagine members of the public who regularly attend this meeting may not know to attend those meetings, et cetera. And if there's anything that needs from a more technical assistance side from that you receive in substantive feedback from this commission, and if members of the commissions of the other in other places can still provide that level of technical assistance on stuff like water efficiency. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to flag these kinds of differences that I'm seeing, because the topic of sustainability, the topic of climate change, and the topic of infrastructure span multiple, it seems like it spans multiple city agencies. I want to also re-echo Commissioner Robbins and Commissioner Rinsky on public outreach, education, and ease of access of information. And along with that, add the theme of partnership and trust building. So Andrea, you are one body. We felt your absence when you were on parental leave, but that's not your problem. You should be on parental leave. You should enjoy that. But the issue that occurs is because if all of sustainability is mostly embodied in a singular person, and that person's not available, then progress is more scattered. But that's not you as an individual's problem. What I'm making that to be the point is that that's when things like really doubling down on partnerships, such as the one that Commissioner Robbins mentioned with Samaritan House, or others, like really can create this mesh network in our community, so that additional progress can happen, additional information can be shared, and it doesn't all have to rest on you as a single entity, because I've worked with many cities where there is just a person like you, and like it's not fair that all this work has to rest on the shoulders of a single body. In fact, to the point of one of the comments made by the public, if we are to really generate massive exponential progress on climate change that we need to see by 2030, we need a whole of government approach within the city of San Mateo so that it does not just rest in terms of you, and it actually is spread across everyone, which reinforces my first point of how it's a little strange that like we other agencies or commissions do other things on this topic without consult from this commission. The cap being updated every 5 years will not align with what we need to see for climate change. Overall, we've already achieved the goal of the 15%, which was maybe a good goal at the time in 2020, but what are the mechanisms in place to potentially accelerate, rethinking and accelerating progress on the cap? As I believe, 2025 will be very late if we start to try to create new benchmarks and new goals in 2025. I think we might want to consider like what is maybe an interim update could look like in that space, and what are the resources that can be provided to the city through grants, through partnerships with programs such as Urban Sustainability Directors Network, or other forums to secure resources for for an additional greenhouse gas assessment before 2025.
If I may, I wanted to offer a clarification about where we are against our goal. So the goal that we had met in 2017 was our 2020 goal, and through the 2020 Climate Action Plan development process, we set goals for 2030 and 2050. And we have not. I would be very excited if we have already met our 2030 goal, but I highly doubt that.
Right, and that's awesome. So, but we don't have a 2025 goal, right? Or we don't have any interim goals. We just have basically you wrote it in 2020, and we hope to hit it in 2030, right?
Right, but I think the other challenge with doing a whole climate action plan is the amount of time it takes.
I'm not recommending a whole one, but I am recommending like looking continuously. The best practices out there across cities is actually like adaptively managing against the climate action plan and shedding things that don't make sense anymore, and re-emphasizing things that do make sense even more, and bringing in other things that might need to be prioritized now that weren't prioritized 2 years ago, just because of different things in the state of the world.
And I do want to just respond to that and to say that has always been our practice. So that is one of the points of these annual updates that we bring to the commission, is to really talk about where the efforts are being focused, where we're making progress. And, as the staff person who actually created the original climate action plan, and then was able to hand it off to Andrea to do the update for 2020, there were a lot of things that we ended up implementing and working on that were never envisioned in the 2015 CAP, but became best practices in sustainability. So just because something isn't in the climate action plan doesn't mean that staff will not move forward with something if it becomes the new best practice. But it is very time and resource intensive to do to update the actual climate action plan document and the measures and the metrics. And when we do have limited staffing, it does take away from staff's ability to do the implementation. But I do also want to emphasize that although Andrea is the sole person with the title sustainability analyst, we do have a pretty sizable team in the city that works on sustainability issues scattered through other departments. As mentioned, a large number of them are within our public works department, because a lot of our efforts in terms of like solid waste and transportation do fall within public works and therefore do go to this commission. And that was one of the reasons why when we originally had a public works commission and a sustainability commission, that the commissions were merged. There are, some items such as things that relate to our zoning code that do tend to go to the planning commission. It's not impossible that those items could go to multiple commissions as needed. We've done that in the past, sometimes to get commission input. And, if there's a strong interest from this commission in being updated on the water conservation measures, we can certainly raise that to our community development department.
Thank you. I think my goal is that the technical assistance that's provided by this commission is available for these things if the members of the commission on other commissions don't have that. Because I don't have like business acumen, right? Like I wouldn't be good for that kind of thing, but I'm good for this, right? So that's my point on that front. So I leave that to staff's discretion, but that's an observation that I've had. Okay, the last thing is on the fleet update for next month. So a couple things there that I wanted to inquire about just in prep for next month is that I'd love to better understand what the renewable product is for the diesel for the fleet, and if there are any carbon metrics associated with the fleet right now. Compressed natural gas, this compressed natural gas / gas wasn't really clear on the carbon intensity of those measures versus just a regular like vehicle equivalent. As we know, we've been seeing some issues with the leakages of gas leading to the carbon intensity being just as bad as some other stuff. So I was just curious to make sure that our alternative fuels are in fact lowering overall emissions rather than maybe inadvertently offsetting. Very curious to hear about the hybrid vehicles that the police is using. If there's an update available about the user experience there, I would love to learn more about that. And then, of course, for the future plans of the green fleet, right now, my understanding is that it looks like it's kind of a replacement rate situation. And curious if and when there's a plan to accelerate the phase out of combustion engine vehicles versus electric vehicles or other alternative fuel vehicles that are lower in carbon emissions from that standpoint. And last thing is that would be great. We're at a point now in the world where we'll need to do adaptation and mitigation together, and we can actually start to see some carbon emission benefits from doing adaptation potentially more quickly. It's no longer okay that we can't just, a lot of theory of changes assumed we can do them sequentially. That's not true anymore. So outside of the CAP, it would be great, I think, at some point to hear about more of the heat and fire oriented adaptation and resilience measures available, and to help out with any programming or other things that the city is doing in that space, because I am genuinely concerned about this summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Reyes, any comments? Okay. Well, I would like to first thank staff for the presentation, and agree with a lot of what we've heard today from commissioners and members of the public. I agree with the commissioners who noted the number of rebate opportunities we have, and interest in increasing outreach for those so as to maximize those. I think staff has done a good job with the channels it has. I think there is the potential for us to branch out into more, and I would suggest that may indeed be something commissioners could potentially take up as part of the overall charge. I personally thought, as we looked through the report, that there were opportunities I may have had to signal boost that which has gone out through the e-newsletter and other channels. And, as I walk through the city, I could, every time someone mentions something about home repairs or renovations, make sure that I am informing folks of opportunities that the city may have available to help in that regard. So that's one thought. Commissioner Lewinsky, I see you have your hand raised.
Sure, thank you. Andrea, Chair Lorraine brought up a comment about the commissioners kind of chipping in. I will work with you. I'm going to put together for our newsletter that goes out to the Beardsford Hillsdale Neighborhood Association a summary of all the rebates. And by the way, that's another, I think, opportunity. We have 34 HOAs and neighborhood associations in the city. And all of them have newsletters that go out. Ours goes out monthly. They go out monthly, quarterly. But like I said, I'll take on from my neighborhood association all the rebates that are available. But that's also not to, somebody, this is another opportunity for us to reach out fairly easy.
Thank you, Commissioner. Going back to my comments, I would also agree with Vice Chair Narita with regard to her interest in maximizing the opportunity that this annual report, I may be interpreting a little bit, but I feel that my takeaway from the discussion that we've had so far is that indeed this annual report presents an impactful opportunity for us to consider what we've done in the past year, not just by the numbers on their faces, but rather, as Robert Whitehair mentioned in public comment, like, how are we doing? And then I think to a bit of Vice Chair's comments, based on that, what might we want to do going forward differently, perhaps? There may need to be a change to the timing of this item if staff may have ideas on whether there's an opportunity to have like a slightly broader and more holistic discussion in that way. I will acknowledge that, as Kathy mentioned, there have been, the city has, of course, found ways to advance sustainability initiatives beyond what has been written in these 5-year reports. Most notably, as was brought up in discussion in public comment and in our last item last month, the mayor's priority to consider decarbonizing and ending methane gas use by 2030. That's not in our current 2020 climate action plan as such. And it may be that there may be an opportunity for this commission working with staff to have this sort of, to take a little bit more of an opportunity to look at what we've done year over year, and then make recommendations that perhaps are communicated to council, and the council could consider initiatives such as that priority and their blue skies. That may be one way in which we could have some of this adaptive work year over year. I'll just mention that. I also will echo what I think Commissioner Reyes has mentioned on a number of occasions and was brought up in public comment today. The potential for getting more public maybe use out of these annual reports by finding some way to quantify the progress beyond the numbers on their faces. I realize it's not always possible in some of we have the data we have, and in some of the metrics may not work out that well. And I guess I just feel that for those for which we do have some, even with, just by estimating, for example, as we have in the climate action plan, how much CO2 has potentially been reduced by the numbers that we have accumulated over the last year, and perhaps since the last climate action plan, for example, like from 2020 to now, I think might be useful. So I think that would help in maximizing our annual reporting. I am looking forward to another opportunity to discuss the REACH codes in June or July, actually. So that I think that's very important. I agree with Gary Trott's comments and public comment to their importance. And perhaps I'll leave it at that. But I thank everybody for the discussion tonight, and would like to move on to reports and announcements. And I think first I'd like to check in with staff to see if they have any reports or announcements.
I do. I apologize. I want to just make sure that I'm saying the right date. I have a Selecting Native Plants webinar that I am hosting on Tuesday, May 24th in partnership with BOSCA. So this is another kind of community event I'm hosting to encourage residents to transform any water using landscapes to selecting natives. And I will make sure information is on our website. And that is all I have.
Thank you, Andrea. Any reports or announcements from commissioners? Okay. I will just note, firstly, I would like to acknowledge that Sustainable San Mateo County had its 23rd annual awards just before our meeting tonight. And among the awardees, we have somebody in our virtual audience tonight. So I'd like to personally congratulate Robert Whitehair for winning the Ruth Peterson Award this year, and thank him for his continued environmental advocacy. I regrettably missed the virtual awards this year because I'm at work, and I guess the work VPN or something blocked my ability to register. So that's a lesson for me to be more prepared and consider other ways to take in such events in the future. I very much look forward to next year, which I hope will be in person, and we can go back to enjoying these in person. I also just want to note that it is Bike to Work Month, or perhaps Bike to Wherever Month, the month of May, and May 20th, not this Friday, but next Friday, May 20th is Bike to Wherever Day. There's an effort going through our friends at Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition and commute.org to put together celebrations on that day, the opportunity to earn a bit of swag, if you will, at different locations throughout the county and in our fair city. If you are interested in participating or learning more, you can go to bikesiliconvalley.org. That is the homepage for Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. We also, of course, as some folks may know, have a city team working in the city of San Mateo on behalf of Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition. They are at movesanmateo.org, and I believe they are organizing some events in our fair city this month. So check them out if you're interested in learning more. And that would be my report and announcements. And unless anyone has anything further from commission and staff, I will adjourn this meeting and wish everyone a good night. Thank you.
Recording stopped.